I'll never forget the day my 2,000-pound Angus bull, Hercules, turned Margaret's perfect rose garden into a churned-up wasteland, her screams echoing as she perched on a garden fountain, clutching a mixing bowl like it was her last defense. But the real drama kicked off 10 hours earlier, when someone with no business on my land snipped a single wire that didn't just power a fence but held back a force of nature from the manicured lawns of our overbearing suburban HOA. My ranch, a rugged slice of freedom just beyond the newly expanded HOA boundaries, had been my sanctuary for decades. I raised cattle, chickens, and one fiercely territorial bull, Hercules, on land that bowed to no one's rulebook. My electric fence kept him contained, and the world left us alone. That is, until Margaret, the HOA's new president, swept in like a storm in designer sneakers, determined to wrap her pastel-colored, policy-obsessed VY shaun around every inch of the neighborhood, even land she had no claim to. My ranch wasn't under her control, but that didn't stop her from treating it like her personal kingdom. Margaret had a complaint for everything. The red of my barn was too bold, my hay bales were too tall, even the earthy scent of my compost offended her. Her latest fixation was my electric fence, which she called hostile, and an eyesore that clashed with the community's aesthetic. I told her if she could keep Hercules in check without it, I'd hand her the wire cutters myself. She fired back with vague threats about zoning laws, while viewing a map so old it might have been drawn by pioneers. I figured it was all hot air. Margaret was loud, infuriating, but harmless. I was dead wrong. That afternoon, while I was hauling feed 2 counties over, my phone buzzed with a gut punch alert. The fence was offline. I thought it was a power blip, but the backup system was live, and the gate logs told a darker story. The bull gate had auto-released. Someone had cut the fence's current, and Hercules, trained to sense freedom when the electric hum stopped, was gone. I floored my truck, heart pounding, picturing my bull charging through a maze of picket fences and pristine sidewalks. What I didn't know was that the chaos was already blowing up online. By the time I hit the neighborhood, Hercules was a VY sensation. Neighbors had posted VY videos of him strutting like a rodeo champ, scattering yapping terriers and toppling manicured shrubs. Margaret's own backyard camera caught her facing him down with a pool float and a water bottle, yelling about livestock ordinances before barricading herself in a garden shed as Hercules pawed her lawn into oblivion. My security footage revealed the culprit, Margaret, wire cutters gleaming, ordering a landscaper to snip the ugly wire. The moment it was cut, the system logged the failure, and the gates swung open. Clean, indisputable, recorded. I pulled up to a scene straight out of a comedy. HOA board members were flailing, trying to herd Hercules with deck chairs in sheer panic, like city slickers in a bull ring. One guy waved a picnic blanket, another held out a granola bar. Hercules snorted, unimpressed, and flattened a wrought iron planter. Margaret emerged from her shed, dusted in potting soil, screeching about trespassing bulls and public safety. I ignored her, pulled out my Bluetooth override, and triggered Hercules' collar chime. His ears twitched, and like a disciplined tornado, he trotted back to me, tail flicking as if he hadn't just turned the HOA's landscaping into a war zone. I tossed him a feed pellet, led him home, and faced a stunned crowd. Margaret tried to paint herself as the hero, but a neighbor shouted, "You set him loose, Margaret!" Phones lit up, capturing her face as it twisted from fury to fear. The landscaper, throwing her under the bus, yelled, "She told me to cut it!" I didn't need to say a word. The truth was out, and it was spreading faster than Hercules' rampage. That night, I patched the fence, reset the system, and pored over the footage. Margaret hadn't just cut a wire, she'd tampered with a state-approved livestock safety system, endangering lives. Hercules could have hurt someone, but his training and a stroke of luck saved the day. The HOA had gotten a front-row seat to what happens when city rules collide with rural reality, and this was just the opening act. By morning, the neighborhood was shell-shocked, like it had survived a stampede. Local news replayed drone footage of Hercules barreling down Maple Drive, with Margaret cowering behind a trash can, clutching a shattered clipboard. A VY clip, set to thundering music, dubbed him the HOA Wrecker. I wasn't sure whether to laugh or lawyer up. Hercules, oblivious, dozed in the barn's shade. By noon, Margaret was handing out flyers, branding my ranch a public menace while sporting a Sun VY sore and shades like she was dodging paparazzi. She didn't realize Hercules was already a folk hero. Reporters called, neighbors gossiped, and the HOA scrambled to control the narrative. Margaret doubled down, rallying her loyalists, mostly clueless newcomers, and marched to my property with a self-printed emergency mandate. I watched through binoculars, munching popcorn, as she reached my fence, demanding I ditch the wiring, build a neighbor-friendly wooden fence, and submit my ranch's blueprints for HOA approval. I pointed to my new steel sign, saw private ranch, not HOA. Trespassers meet Hercules. Saw that should have stopped her, but Margaret crossed the line, literally sneaking onto my land to film a rant, accusing me of weaponizing livestock. She didn't notice Hercules watching from the pasture, tail flicking. When she called him a glorified lawnmower with horns, he'd had enough. Hercules trotted toward her, slow and deliberate. Margaret, mid-speech, heard the hooves, turned, and froze. In a panic, she tried to scale my decorative wagon wheel. It tipped, and she tumbled into a wheelbarrow of manure, legs flailing. Her followers filmed, one snickering. Hercules snorted and sauntered off, the ultimate power move. Margaret, covered in muck, screamed about safety inspections. I shouted, "Book an appointment next time!" The HOA meeting that followed was pure chaos. Margaret, dressed like a wounded saint, accused me of domestic terrorism and played a doctored VY Dale of Hercules. A resident yelled, "Show the real one!" Phones pinged as neighbors shared the original footage, Margaret cutting the fence, Hercules startled by a lawn gnome, her hiding in a trash bin. The room erupted in laughter. The landscaper, my cousin's buddy, stood up. "She paid me to cut it. Said it was just for show." The board suspended Margaret pending a full investigation. She stormed out, muttering about lawsuits. The next day, Margaret filed a county complaint claiming my ranch violated zoning laws. I showed up with deeds, permits, and crystal-clear footage. The official chuckled at her photoshopped images of a monster bull, tossing her case but warning she might sue. I sent my cousin's audio, Margaret saying, "Cut it, he'll never know," to my lawyer, ready to hit back. An insurance adjuster VY cited, charmed by Hercules's calm demeanor, and ruled I was owed damages. Margaret's claim for emotional trauma was laughed out of the room. Her last desperate move was hiring a consultant, some guy named Carl, who rambled about unstable fences at another HOA meeting. I slid over footage of Carl mistaking a goat for a bull. The crowd roared, and Carl bolted. The board finally ousted Margaret for good, billed her for lawn repairs, and drafted a policy respecting rural operations. Days later, Hercules slipped through an open HOA gate, rolling in Margaret's sprinklers and flattening a plastic flamingo. She charged out with a rake, slipped, and landed in her koi pond, dripping algae. I leashed Hercules and walked away without a word. That evening, I threw a bull safety barbecue, drawing crowds with Hercules t-shirts and a cake shaped like a shredded HOA flyer. Margaret watched from a distance, defeated. The sheriff confirmed her complaint was dead and hinted at charges for fence tampering. She sent apology cards and a pet store gift card for Hercules, admitting she'd gone too far. Weeks later, she moved away, glancing at Hercules one last time as her truck disappeared. The neighborhood transformed. Porch parties sprang up, tools were shared, and a spring fair featured Hercules posing for selfies. The HOA's new rule protected rural land, and a plaque honored Hercules for restoring sanity. I added a sign, saw "Welcome to the ranch. Home of Hercules. Don't touch the fence." Last person did moved. Saw Hercules still guards that fence, ready for the next fight, as peace settles over the ranch like a sunset behind his horns.